We live in an outcome performance obsessed world. Our culture, certainly in the West, is obsessed with it. So we raise our young to have a performance identity. You are what you do, how well you do it is really important in this world. Do you have an alter ego when you compete?
In hindsight, maybe I needed to, but no.
The way that you frame it makes a material difference. It's real hard in the face of evidence to stay optimistic and excited. Emotional and social intelligence are really important. Just don't make people look bad. If you embarrass somebody publicly, I don't think you get that relationship back.
Yeah.
People who care, it makes perfect sense to me that there'd be some anxiousness around it. This idea that like, how do you separate results from an outcome from the process? That is hard to do. It takes a disciplined effort. O'Neil, we're back.
Back like we never left.
It does feel that way with you.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Lot, man, a lot. I was in New York for a while, soaking up some culture. Brooklyn block parties, even though I missed every last one of them. I'm directing a play I'm starring in. That's daunting, man. I'm drained,
Tell me more.
Othello, doing it during the holidays. And I've never directed a play before, right? So I thought I could.
You're directing and leading?
I'm directing and leading in it. So yeah, I'm splitting myself in two. And it's just been, I've never been a person that's at least admitted that I've been stressed out, right? I'm like, but man, I'm stressed out. And I'm trying to keep my same daily routine that I keep while doing that. Like I'm getting up at 5 a.m, I'm working out, I'm, doing jujitsu, I'm lifting and running. I'm trying to do everything I can do, but I'm always fucking drained. Because by the time I'm done with play rehearsal at 10 p.m., I get home, I'm done. Sometimes I'm having headaches, a whole bunch of weird stuff that I've never experienced before. I'm like, damn, well, my stomach is always bothering me. Like my stomach is always bothering me. And I'm like, well, how the fuck am I supposed to sink all this in? Because I want to get this done. Let me just go hard because I've been told to go hard. Just go hard, stop being a bitch. Go hard. I mean a female dog when I say bitch.
Oh my God. I've said like previous AMAs like, all right, I'm in a mood. I'm catching one from you right now.
I'm in a mood.
Yeah.
You asked me how I was like, couldn't wait. I was driving here like, I can't wait to tell Dr. Mike how I feel about stuff.
So what is what's the mood?
Man, I don't know how I'm gonna get it done.
So is it overwhelmed? Is it fatigued?
Overwhelmed.
Is it like anxious?
Overwhelmed and anxious.
Overwhelmed and anxious.
Yeah.
Fatigue system?
That too. I throw it all in there.
So you got all of those going.
Yeah, I'm at all of that.
And then when you're in that state, is it what's the coping mechanism? Is it quick to frustration, intolerance? Is it
100%?
100%. You're leaking right now. Yeah. And your loved ones suffer the most.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So it's not like you get small and go into a hole. It's not like you could become depressed and more subdued in that way. It's like you do more and then you have a shorter fuse.
Shorter fuse. I was riding down Sunset in Echo Park with Kaisa, and the Dodgers are playing. And man, I was like, man, I hate Dodger fans, man. I hate them. Look at them. And she's like, yo, what's wrong with you? I was like, my bad. And then this car pulled out, and I was like, I hate them type of cars. I'm like, why would people buy them cars?
Yes.
She's like, yo, you going through it right now. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's funny that like frustration and tolerance is oftentimes the public expression of anxiety or depression. And so especially for men, one of those two primary colors sits on top of, the color of frustration. So it sounds like it's more anxiety for you than depression, right? So the anxiety is like, man, I don't know if this is going to come together. Like this could, and if it doesn't come together, this could be really bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And obviously no one wants to look bad. So it's unusual for me to go into something and not like be sure of it. I like to go into things that I'm sure of, and to go into something and be like, oh man, and stumble my way through in the dark is just, I don't like that. I like to know what's going on. I want all the lights to be on. I want to see where the chairs are. I want to see where the people are. I don't like just,
I mean, this is the most exciting part of high performing environments is that you don't know how it's going to go. Like when you go fight, when you go, get on the mat, when you do any type of sport activity, you don't know. I don't know how it's going to go. It's the most exciting part. It's also the thing that with just I don't know, if we push off dock 20 degrees, our boat, it's anxiety, and we push off like I don't know, 17 degrees. It's excitement.
Yeah.
Like there's a real slight difference between those two. And it just,
Man.
the way that you frame it makes a material difference. And so it's hard when you get real evidence that you're behind the eight ball. It's not going exactly the way you want it to go. It's real hard when you have in the face of evidence to stay optimistic and excited when the evidence is like, this is broken. This looks like it's about to break. This is underperformed, that to stay in that optimistic excited when the evidence coming back and the feeling inside your body has adrenaline, some cortisol, some epinephrine, like there's like a cocktail of agitating neurochemicals.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, man, I can't tell you how many times I want to quit. I'm like, how can I quit? I gotta find a way.
I just want to go back and work out.
Yeah, I just want to, yes.
As opposed to be fit for something.
Yes, I was like, maybe I can just, if one thing goes wrong, if one little cog falls out of the machine, I'm like, oh shit, it's over. I might as well just call it. Listen, we're done. Let's just cancel everything.
Yeah.
I'm looking for excuses.
Yeah, I understand. And so like, how do you manage that energy? Are you a morning person or night person?
100% morning person.
You're a morning person.
100% morning person.
So what time do you get up?
5:30, 5:45.
So there's like 3 or 4 different types of sleep energy profiles. There's the morning person, the late owl. There's the dolphin, as some people have called it, where like they have 2 different peaks, throughout the day, and they're good nappers, if you will.
Yeah.
But so you like to wake up naturally in the morning.
Love it.
Yeah. And then so when you're going to bed late, you're just kind of burning the candle at both ends.
100%. If I shut down at like 4:00. If I don't get everything done by 4:00, man, it's a wrap. So
4:00
in a day.
Well,
Yeah. I'll get up at either 5 or 5:45.
The sun's still up.
Huh?
The sun's still up at 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm in the bed.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Really?
100%.
My goodness. All right. So, there's 2 things. One is, there's some decisions, some hard decisions that we have to make. We can get after something for like 3 months for a solid bit of work that is really tired and fatiguing and draining, like a camp, if you will, in sport. Yeah. Like they're hard, but when you do them well, you're getting all the recovery so that you can play the long game. But we can chunk in some really difficult sleep compromised times. It's not optimal for health, but it might be a requirement at some point in people's lives. I would say we can do better in those 3 months if we're a little bit smarter about the trade-offs that we're making. It's hard when your biological clock is wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning. 5 in the morning, you said, before we started. Yeah. But you're not done until 10, winding down 10:30, kind of crawling to bed 11. You're only giving yourself about 6 hours of sleep. Like, it's hard. It's hard. So there's this thing, morning mindset routines, that have been really important for me and lots of the folks I work with. And the morning mindset routine, like we've got like a video audio explainer that we've created for folks. It's findingmastery.com/morning mindset. If anyone wants it, it's free. It's a download. And I'll send that over to you as well. And I think that would be it's a 4-step process. It takes between 60 and 90 seconds. And during the holidays, I feel like this is a massive moment to be able to make sure that recovery is on place. There's so much exciting, great, family, friends, celebration, activities. Maybe a little bit later. Maybe there's a little bit more stress in some of the relationships, but it's such a great time. And even in that excitement phase of this part of the year, it does still take, some energy out of the system. And so morning mindset's cool. What do you do when you first get up?
I get up in the morning. I either go lift or do jujitsu or go run. I have my whole routine split up. After I'm done with that, come home, shower, put on clothes. Now that I'm working on this play, I'll go to a coffee shop and I'll edit the play, beat out the acts, put in the actions that I want. That takes an ungodly amount of hours.
It does.
It's insane. By the time I'm done with that, I'll have a meeting for a television show that me and my partners are pitching. So we're working on the pitch for that, while Hollywood is crashing all around us. Mm-hmm. So by the time that's done.
Which of course means there's new opportunities that are arising. Of course,
thank you.
That.
There is a whole.
This is the time for geniuses. I will tell you.
Right? During COVID, I watched 2 things happen. I watched a group of people go broke, and I watched a group of broke people become millionaires.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
You say coffee shop, and it's an easy segue for me because Mudwater is our sponsor for this episode. You said you're drinking coffee. I'm all about tea, and Mudwater is like a go-to for me. And so I'm super stoked that they're part of this program for us. But so really what this product is about is a substitute for coffee. And so they're using mushrooms as the fuel for energy and a little stimulation. And you know how I feel about nutrition. This is a great solution, I think, for getting, some adaptogens and some really healthy choices in the morning is when I use it. They got a turmeric that I love. It is my go-to for them. And then at night, I use this cocoa mix. It's a little bit of a hot chocolate, mushroom mixed hot chocolate at night. Their matcha mix is awesome. And so I don't know if you had the chance to check out Mudwater.
Well, it's funny that you said I drink coffee when I go to the coffee shop. Let me fix that. I go to the coffee shop because within this coffee shop is a whole bunch of little restaurants. And there's this little Asian fusion restaurant that has this amazing mushroom rice bowl. It's amazing. So I go there to have that. Well, because it opens up at like 10. I have that and I have tea. I actually don't drink coffee.
There you go.
And
it is weird because, I say, sorry to interrupt you. I say to folks like, I say, let's go get a tea. And I know it sounds so weird because they want to go get a coffee. Like most people.
No, it don't sound weird to me though.
That doesn't sound weird.
No, because the coffee shop sells tea.
So you're a tea drinker too.
I'm Jamaican. I'm a huge tea drinker.
Oh, come on.
But I have tried
Jamaican
Mudwater.
tea?
No, it's not Jamaican tea, but my mom, I'm making me digress now. Anytime I have a headache or something, I drink some tea. Yeah, my stomach hurt. Drink some tea. So it was always drink some tea. So now I'm a grown ass man. I still drink tea. Tea calms me.
Well, you just kind of insulted me. Like grown men don't drink tea.
No,
and I just told you that I'm a tea drinker.
No, I just said, I'm a grown ass man. I drink tea. So we two grown ass men drink tea. No, I have tried Mudwater. It's like hot chocolate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
you like the chocolate one?
I like the chocolate one. I put raw honey in it and nutmeg. So
that's good. I haven't tried that.
Yeah. So I have tried it before. I'm trying to not drink coffee at all. I don't think I drink coffee for what I thought I used to drink it for, like the taste. I drink it because I used to drink it because it was a routine.
Like you think about it, I don't know, like the idea of like a bean that is just like sat around for a long time and so then we're drinking like bean water. I don't know. Like I like the stimulants of tea, but I'm using more because I run so intensely. I'm using, once it hits 12 o'clock, I'm choosing a turmeric. I'm choosing something else that doesn't have caffeine in it. But this turmeric on Mudwater, I'm telling you, for inflammation, for just kind of all the health properties that turmeric has, and I can drink it.
Yeah.
And I know it's sourced in a thoughtful way. I'm about the turmeric right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I gotta try that.
That'll be a good one.
Turmeric
at noon.
At noon.
That's another. Cut out the caffeines before noon because the half-life of caffeine takes a long time to eliminate. So it takes about 10 to 12 hours to eliminate enough of it so that your internal ecosystem can begin to find a sleep pattern or sleep readiness. But if you got a bunch of tea on board or a bunch of caffeine from coffee or tea and it's not eliminated in the body, like after say 2 o'clock, it's troubles to get to sleep.
That's right. Tea does have caffeine too.
Oh, plenty. Like black tea.
Yeah.
Some of the black teas have almost as much or more than coffee. Green teas, a little bit less.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turmeric at noon.
Turmeric at noon. I'll try that.
So a little Mudwater turmeric at tea.
A little Mudwater turmeric.
Yeah.
I'm drinking some Mudwater right now. What you doing, Dr. Michael?
Okay, good. Send it over. It'll be a lot of fun is that if on social, our community's dialed up at noon or sometime throughout their day. Now, sometime throughout their day, they took a picture of them drinking some Mudwater. So this is good for the sponsor. It's good for us too. It'll be fun. And then they tag us. So what is your social?
At human being.
At human.
Yeah, human. HYUMAN being. BEING being.
As if that spelling was intuitive. You looked at me like it's human being. Like, what are you talking about? HY.
HY. Thought it was clever, Dr. Mike. I'm being clever.
Okay, and then they tagged me at Michael Gervais, and then picture of them drinking their Mudwater.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Right.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll start it off. I'll do one.
Okay, you hit us. We'll get it going, and then this will just be fun at noon. All right, and then folks can get a discount. It's mudwater.com/mastery. And when you go there, obviously you help out our podcast, you help out our community, you help out our sponsors. So it's mudwater.com, MUD, wtr.com/mastery. All right, look, today's going to be fun. So we're in the holiday season. We're asking people to send in their audio. You and I had talked earlier that we wanted to hear their voice, that, just reading it is cool.
Yeah.
But like if we can actually bring people in the room with us, that we thought there'd be a little bit more energy. So I'm excited to hear people's voices here.
Yeah, let's do it. I want to hear some voices.
I want to hear the tone.
Yeah.
I want to hear how they shape their words, and I'm excited for this too.
Yeah, let's get it going.
Let's go.
Hey, Dr. Mike. Love the podcast. Thanks for taking my question. My name is Brad. I'm a basketball coach who loves helping individuals see their true potential and build confidence. I often think about their mindsets and how to make an athlete tougher during, high stakes competitions. What are your thoughts on how to cultivate an alter ego? Like how Kobe Bryant became the Black Mamba, to stay mentally sharp and resilient during challenging games or high stake moments? And how do you sustain that over time without burning out? Thanks.
Yeah, that's a cool question. Do you have an alter ego when you compete? Have you ever played with that?
No.
Yeah.
In hindsight, maybe I needed to, but no.
It was after Kobe announced his thing. I got that question a bunch. He's got a Mamba mentality. I think that there's a bit of a risk and a danger in this. Is that this goes back to the Bruce Wayne thing. Like you're all of a sudden you're different. And I am completely aligned with the idea of knowing what your ideal competitive mindset is. So ICM, as I like to think, shorthanded. What is your ideal competitive mindset? And that becomes the bullseye for all of your mental skills training, your physical training, your technical training. And then it becomes the bullseye for your warm-up or your preparation routine to switch on, to activate your ideal competitive mindset. Now, if you are like really kind and thoughtful in your kind of waking days, and then as soon as you put your jersey on, like that doesn't work for you and you're going to be exactly opposite, I think that there's a real problem with that. You can do it. But it's like you're breaking your organic code of how you want to do life. That all of a sudden, when I've got a jersey on, I'm between the lines. Now I'm a jerk, or I whatever. I'm not being incredibly articulate here, because I want to make this point that I want to open up the range for people to explore what their ideal competitive mindset is, and then train their mental skills that will allow that to be consistent once they're between the lines. If you can stitch your ideal competitive mindset to your core values, I think it's much easier to activate that. But when it's a complete opposite persona, completely different, out of character different, I think that gets really confusing. I think it's not sustainable. You'll hear people say this all the time. Oh, he's different, or she's different as soon as like it's game time. It's different. That's cool. That's no problem. But when you abandon the values that you live on a daily basis for that mindset, I think that's where the confusion is.
Growing up playing sports, you get told, especially as a young man, that, you should be a killer. You got to have a killer mentality. You got to go out there and hurt somebody. We used to, on special teams, we used to yell, 1, 2, 3, hit somebody. And if you can lay somebody out.
In football.
If you can lay them out, hurt them, do something, you got love for it. I'm in agreement with you because I think that spills over into your regular life. And I think sometimes we forget that you have a whole life after you're playing, literally after the game is over, or literally after the boxing match or the competition. You got to go home to your kids, your wife, your family, your significant other, whoever. And I have heard from playing sports, I've witnessed, but I have also heard that it's hard to turn that off. I remember a long time ago reading an article from an NFL player, and he wanted to remain anonymous. And he talked about that, like, he believed that like a lot of the players that were aggressive with their spouses or significant others was because partly of how they were reared from coming up. And from being reared that way myself, being in that environment myself, I agree. And for other people to say, no, that's not the way. Unless you played, unless you've been in that environment, you wouldn't really know. But it's almost like they don't know who they are anymore. That same person on the field.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm pointing to, the confusion and a bit of a recipe for a very hard way to do life is when it's not an on-off switch. We talk about being switched on. like, oh, this person switched on. It's not actually a switch. There's a ramp up and a come down, And so let me animate this through 2 stories. Larry Fitzgerald and I are friends. Larry is, for folks that I would be surprised that maybe don't know Larry, certainly in the US and the football culture, he's one of the best to ever play the game. As a wide receiver, I mean, he is a man amongst children. Like, it is unbelievable how well he played the game for how long he did it. He's extraordinary. And Larry is an incredibly thoughtful human. He's gentle and attentive and kind. He's a global citizen. I think he's seen, Larry, of course, correct me here, 74 to 80 countries. Like, he really has traveled and given, and he's an amazing all-around human. So I think it was year 1 or 2 when I was with the Seattle Seahawks, and we were playing the Cardinals. That's where he played, Arizona Cardinals. And it's pregame, he's warming up, and it's totally normal that if you see a friend, you come up and you talk to him, pregame on the field. Yeah. There's probably about, I don't know, just only about 10,000 people in the stadium at this point. So, and the stadium holds about 80,000. So it was just kind of getting going, that kind of buzz, but not a full kind of electric thing.
Yeah.
I walked out to him and with this big grin, like, here's a friend, and I'm getting to see him. We're competing against each other, but again, this is totally normal. Right. And I come up like to give him a hug, and he looked at me and he goes, I don't do it pregame, and we're friends.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and I didn't know this part of him because we hadn't been engaged there. And so, and he smiled, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I see you. And then I smiled back at him, and we both met each other with like this cool regard. And then after the game, every time we play, it was like we actively look for each other, to say what's up and congratulate, however it went. So he was activating his mind, his mindset. And because of his friendliness, his kindness, his core values, he knows that he needs to start switching on or amplifying a different way. And he's not abandoning his core values, but he's honoring them, and he's honoring himself, that we're just not going to do that now. Some people can. Some people are big high fives, dabs. So great to see it. It's amazing. Can't wait for the coin to drop. Like, I'll see you on the field type of thing. I'm actually not on the field, but you know what I mean? So that's one kind of way to think about, he was turning on his ICM. The important part of the story is that he knows what his ideal competitive mindset is, and he was honoring a pathway to turn that on. And even when it was an awkward conversation between 2 friends, like, not right now, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, so that's the kind of ramp up. And on the ramp down is that some people do play with a violent mind. In the fight world, there's tacticians and there's fighters. There's people that have violence in their mind, and there's people that are incredibly skilled. And their aim is to be completely fluid with their craft.
Yeah.
And the violent fighter mind is like, look, I'm going to hit you so hard, I'm going to split your palate open, right? There's a very different mindset between the two. And I know I'm speaking to someone who understands both of them intimately, probably.
Yes.
In sport, if you have a violent mind, if you have a violent approach to the game, there's zero judgment by me on it. Those folks that have that, we would put in place a post-game deactivation. So many of those athletes, we would recommend they don't go home in the same car as their family members.
Wow.
So there's a window that you need to be able to let that shed, to come back to your core values as a civilian, someone walking, at home at night. Going from that violent mind, even the highly aggressive, like really keyed up competitors, we would suggest for them, maybe they haven't crossed into the violent mind. By the way, I did a study, the NFL, I surveyed coaches and athletes on one team, the Seattle Seahawks. And by definition, or by statistical analysis, they did not see the game as violent. They said it can be, but for the most part, it's not violent. But it can be. And they would all kind of wink like, no, we all know who the violent ones are on our team. And there's a couple on every team. But for the most part, football is not a violent game defined by the intent to harm. But it can be. Okay? and so anyways, so those super aggressive and even those that had the violent mindset is that we would suggest that, don't get in the car with your kids that are kind of pulling on whatever, or being loud, or a spouse that wants to talk about the game, or a mother-in-law that happens to, be visiting for the game. Like, you need a cooling off period.
Yeah. So I have a question. Would you say that everything from the minute we are born is a learned behavior? Whether from our environment, from our family members, our friends, we look at people, we observe, and then we choose to do or do not, right?
No, I'd say there's an unfair advantage for some people. So there's a genetic coding that is also part of it. So there's things we learn. There's a genetic coding that has a predisposition or a greasing of the groove to make some choices, to learn some behaviors more easily. I would say that it's more of an interactionist as opposed to a genetic predisposition and or only point to the agency of learned behaviors.
Wow, you just smashed my whole theory.
Yeah, so sorry. So sorry. But this is just my take. I want to hear yours.
No. I mean, this is good to know because I've always, like, when things that I've always found that came easy to me and ways that I handle myself or things that I figure out really easily, I'd be like, listen, I'm no more special than you. How come I understand this? How come I see this and you don't see this? And I've been, in the past, relentlessly unforgiving to people for that because I'm like, this is learned. We learn everything, so you can either unlearn or you can learn. So why are you
make
doing
it
what
concrete?
you're doing?
Like, what's an example of that?
Like let's use this for an example. The caller asking about how do you get that mindset, and I'm like, well, the killer mindset, right? The aggressive mindset. In my opinion, you watch other. If I'm a safety. And I'm a freshman on a high school team, and there's the senior, and he's a 5-star recruit, and he's a killer. He's cracking people. I'm not talking to you before the game. Don't say nothing to me. Like that sort of mindset. And I'm like, oh, that's what it takes to be really good like him. So as the years go on, my sophomore, junior year to my senior, I'm going to adopt the same mentality because it worked for this guy. It got him in college. It got him. So
okay, so now we're going to get into the nuances of it. That worked for him. That doesn't mean it works for you. So this is where the customization or the personalization, like, life is so personal. Yeah. It's so uniquely yours, and it's so uniquely my experience. Like, this is going to sound sad, but there's no single person, even my closest loving partner, my wife, doesn't know what my life experience is. She works hard to understand. I work hard to understand hers, but this internal private experience I have in life, there's so much of it that it's impossible, I think, for another person to really understand what it's like to be another person. We try, and that's really what love is, to really try to understand, or it's part of love. My point is like, this is now the personalized piece, is that savage competitive mindset worked for that person. It doesn't mean it has to work for you. His success or her success using that doesn't mean it is your model for you. Yeah. But if you're attracted to it, maybe there's some version of it that's actually pretty close. It's like a color palette. Like, oh, that hue, I like that hue, but it's just, I don't know, it's 20% up or down. And there's something about that that's interesting. There is a natural selection towards what we think is going to serve us well. And that serving us well is either how our elders or our block or our home shaped how we're thinking about it, or like we're seeing success happen for that person. The real challenge is to know yourself and then to dress accordingly, to really know yourself and dress accordingly. And that means know how you work best and activate those mental skills to give you a chance to have that mindset that will serve you well. Yeah. And that to me is the game inside the game. The inner game is to really know yourself, build a whole set of psychological skills so that you can turn on that mindset that will serve you, to your best abilities.
Wow. So as a coach having a whole slew of kids, you have to treat them individually. You can't, in order to turn on that performance mindset, you can't say, okay, this worked for this kid. Getting to know them individually, really getting to go beyond that layer is what's called for.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And like, no longer would we just load a bar on somebody's back and say, listen, we're all squatting. We know that some people, that their bodies are not shaped to load a bar. They ought to do some some sort of other mechanism for, straining their system.
Yeah.
And it's the same mentally, is that one mindset is not going to be the solution. Now, helping each of your athletes understand their ideal competitive mindset is a great lob that you could throw the kids. You could say to the kids, like, look, mindset matters here. Mental part of the game is really important. We can train three things. We can train our craft, we can train our body, we can train our mind. We're going to do all three of those in a very intentional way. We've got a strength coach that's going to help you with the strength and conditioning, I'm going to lead on the technical training. And whether you have a sports psych in your high school team, probably not. You say, look, so on the mental part of the game, where we're going to start is each of you is going to write down your ideal competitive mindset. And then you look at blank stares and they say, well, coach, what does that mean? I just want you to write down, what is it like inside of your body, inside of your mind when you are at your best? I just want you to describe it. Is it really smooth? Is there an agitated edge? Are you really happy? And then you can there's like 5 or 6 kind of icon emblematic versions of this. Think about Stephen Curry. He plays with great joy.
Yeah.
And he's very clear about that.
Yeah.
Then you look at Jordan. It's like competitive fire. There's an intensity about him. And then you look at, do you remember Latrell Sprewell?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
He was super slanky. He was just kind of crafty. And you look up at the end of the game, it's like, how did he get 23 points? Like he was more the slanky, crafty, kind of like slippery, not demonstrative in any way.
Yeah.
But, double-double up there. I don't know how many double-doubles he had, but it was more slanky, if you will, is the word I use. So anyways, there's lots of versions of it, but helping your kids know at least what the bullseye is and then drop down from that, then over time you start training mental skills that will support it. Like you can train confidence, training them to be more calm, go down the list. And these mental skills are not complicated. I mean, we built a course to help folks do this, but they're actually they're not complicated to teach and train. So anyways, that's how I think about it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you gave me some insight. In essence, correct me if I'm wrong, you're just saying let who you are, your personality come through in your play and your performance, right?
And there might be a slight contour or slight shift in like your mindset and my mindset right now, and the mindset if we're going to go compete, at something that we're both really passionate about. A slightly different version come out. I might get quieter, more intense. I might get louder, and you'd be like, "Oh, look at who is that?"
Yeah.
So I'm suggesting I personally do not abandon my core values for my ideal competitive mindset. It feels like there's a through line there that would make sense to you. But if we're competing at, like, put on some basketball hoops and we go compete, you'd be like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see that. Like you'd see a different version of me, but not an abandonment to my core values.
I love that. Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Mike. My name is Maz. My question is, I'd love to hear your views around how to maintain high performance and not be attached to the result, specifically in relationship to closing sales in business. I'm a huge fan of your work. I've applied a lot of what you teach, at least the parts that I've consumed, and it's made such a huge difference in my life in ways that I'm so grateful for. So thank you so much.
This is kind of related to what you and I were talking about earlier about the anxiousness that you're going through designing this play, directing it and leading it. And so people who really care, it makes perfect sense to me that there would be some anxiousness around it. And so this idea that, like, how do you separate results from an outcome from the process? That is hard to do, period. It takes a disciplined effort to be able to stay deeply connected to the controllables, the things that you can directly and radically influence to give yourself the best chance to have the outcome that you hope for or dream of or, are ambitiously working towards. It's that discipline to stay connected to what you can control is special. It's rare. And I think just asking the question, I believe that you understand the value in it. How do you do it? There's no magic sauce here. It is a discipline in thought. Coach Carroll from the Seattle Seahawks would often say to the athletes after a win, let's be great. Let's be disciplined with how we're thinking about our potential. This takes great discipline to not think that we got it all covered now. We won 3 in a row. It's just going to be a glide path. It takes great discipline to focus on the task at hand. When there's incredible amount of options that would pull you from the present moment, I'm coming back to this word again. There's a discipline to stay connected to the process, to the task at hand. I find it so special and rare that it's actually quite beautiful when people could truly let go of what the outcome is because they're so consumed with mastering the task at hand. And when you do that and you think about like this moment plus this moment plus this moment plus this moment, and you can contour the way that you're working in this present moment in a high art way, like of course masterpieces take place. And so that is the word I go to, a discipline. It's special, it's rare, and when people do it, it's quite beautiful.
I mean, that's an ideal space to be in. I feel as though the world and its great golden measuring stick that it has, that people who want to perform at a high level that are wrapped up in the results aspect of it, that we look at, and you don't want to look. If I'm just making it simplified, you don't want to look bad. So as you're in it, right? As I'm in it, yeah, I want to enjoy the process and the magic of it, and the little victories that happen within the whole process. For me, I can only speak for me. Because of that measuring stick, and because I'm in my mind, I'm like, I want this shit to look great. I want people to walk out of here like, God damn, that was amazing. I want that sale to close. I want to, because you want to just woo people, because you've been reared, because you've grown up like people getting accolades, and then you start to equate that with your self-worth, because you're like, okay, if I win, I'm the shit. If this play is amazing, I'm the shit. If I close this deal, I get promoted, and I'm the shit. I got to be the shit, as opposed to being like, let me just enjoy this. Is wonderful. If I don't become the shit, it's not a big deal. I would like to be in that space, and I would like to say I can transcend wanting to be the shit. But even though if I was to say it, I'm lying, right? Because I want to be the shit. So how do you separate yourself from that? Is my question.
What if your being the shit didn't hinge on some extraordinary output? What if you could just make a decision that you are this unique ecosystem that is working on 2 things, and you're working on being okay with who you are right now,
Mm-hmm.
and you're also working on investing in a better version of yourself. And so that better version is the restlessness to become something that you're not fully able to express right now. And what if that was the main focus? Like you're okay with who you are and you're working to get better, as opposed to like, I need something outside of me to tell me that I'm okay right now, and that later I'll be okay. Instead of it being based on like their view of you, or the income or the results or the sales that are the measure of it, but you just kind of made a decision on it. What would that be like for you?
Ideally, that would be amazing. That would be
well. What holds you back from just making that decision?
Here's the thing, and I'm going to say this in the most jumbled up way I could ever explain anything. I feel like that now. I truly do.
In this moment, right now.
In this moment, I feel like that now. But I also want the accolades. Like those 2 things are existing inside of me.
What if I were to suggest that you only get one of those at a time? Which one would you want more often? What would the percentage game be like for you?
Oh, I mean, 100% 80-20. 80 my self-belief and my actualization of myself and who I am, and 20% the outside world.
That's a cool model. Is that how it's showing up for you?
Not currently. Most of the time, yes, but not currently.
Flip the other way sometimes.
Yes.
80-20 the other way. Yeah.
Yes.
So again, I'll come back to like the discipline of be true to your model. Okay, 80% of your thoughts are focused on like the task at hand and mastering the task at hand. And 20% of it is like, look, if these things line up well, it's going to be amazing. Or if these don't line up well, it's going to be problematic. Maybe it's something, maybe just kind of instead of an all or nothing switch that I'm talking about, maybe you just honor an 80-20 in there. And we're talking about you here, but this is like a much more pervasive issue, let's call it, than maybe we readily address. And the question is brilliant about how to separate from the results in the process. It's hard. This is not easy to do. And I'll just go back to that word, a discipline to stay true to the model that you're bringing forward, the 80-20.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Oris here. Hope you're doing great. I love to hear your thoughts on toxic workplaces. And I mean, when you bring your best self to the workplace, but that makes either your direct boss or your boss's manager feel insecure about their role or their position at the company. So, how does the first rule of mastery, not fearing other people's opinions, mixes with Robert Greene's first rule of power, never outshine the master? Because in this case, they literally have the power to hold you back. They could either block promotions or other opportunities to grow at the company. And even if you quit and go somewhere else, you might find yourself in a similar situation in the future, and for most people, quitting might not be an option. They have to stay there. So, what are some tactics or strategies or protocols that you think would be beneficial?
I'm gonna be honest with you. That question is really difficult for me because if I'm in a toxic work, I can only use my experiences. If I'm in a toxic work environment and I have that threat of if I outshine, like he said, if I outshine the master, there's an issue. I'm leaving. If you are my boss and this person above me and you make me feel uncomfortable in any way, and you make me feel nervous that my performance could be threatening to you, or a high performance could be a detriment to me, then things are clashing. I'm confused. My wires are crossed. I'm having a malfunction. I can't be there because from the way I was taught, I'm supposed to come here and do the best that I can do. So if I do the best that I can do and it threatens you, why am I here? So I would just remove myself from that environment completely.
Easier said than done. If you've got 3 kids and rent is due and the options, are, easy, right? Easier said than done.
Definitely.
And I really like the power of what you just said. I align completely with what you just said in my life. And so that's what we're talking about, high agency. Now, the question was actually quite nuanced, which is there was, I think, 3 parts to the question to address. One is, okay, your first rule of mastery is to stop worrying. He used fearing. It's actually worrying, but that's a subtlety here that we don't need to actually unpack. Stop worrying about what other people think. Why? Why stop worrying? Because when we're worrying, we're not being true to our purpose, our primary fundamental commitments that we're making in life. When we are worrying, excessively worrying about what other people think, our true purpose is for approval or not to be rejected. And our life swings around that idea. Talk about toxic. That is a draining system to operate from. Now, the second part of it is that when you can outshine because your very best is quite bright and it's dynamic and it's an amazing capability that you can bring forward. And according to Robert Greene, don't outshine, those folks. That's the dark art. So the dark art is to know how to blend these two. You and I would be like, no, I'm not playing the dark art. I need to be around an environment where people are challenging me to be my best, where they want that because that helps them, that helps all of us. And we're more like a real team as opposed to some bureaucratic hierarchy, power and control structure that stifles and extracts the workforce for the one or the few that are going to benefit. You and I are both calling bullshit on that. The dark art that Robert's talking about is like, understand power. If somebody is really operating from the old model of power and you shine a bright light on yourself, the Australians call it the tall poppy syndrome, that the tall poppy that pops higher than the others gets lopped off. So don't rise up too much because you're going to get taken care of by other people. The old design of power is that know your place. Do not make me look bad And there's something in there to be honored, meaning like, look, if your brightest, best self is also making other people look bad, maybe there's some ways that you got to like think about how you express your brilliance. There's more of a community in the way that we can share ideas than it always has to be your idea, for example, or not grandstanding in a moment where you make your supervisor look stupid or silly. Like there's a subtlety in here that I think is also important. And what I'm pointing to is EQ and social intelligence. Emotional and social intelligence are really important. And the way I read Robert's first rule is that he's simplifying it, social and emotional intelligence, and saying, look, just don't make people look bad. Please understand this. You make somebody look bad. If you embarrass somebody publicly, I don't think you get that relationship back.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop. And I learned that in sport. Even when people say, that's just coaches and athletes, they'll work that out. You throw your clipboard down, roll your eyes, and like yell at somebody in front of your peers and their peers or on TV, and it doesn't get worked out.
Yeah. I view that as the worst form of disrespect. When you do it in front of a lot of people, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
Yeah, so there's a subtlety in the question that I just want to address. And then to stay on this thing on the public embarrassment piece is that if you critique publicly, you have to repair publicly. Critiquing publicly and repairing privately does not work, because you in a football team of like 100 between coaches and athletes, the 98 have made up a story about what's actually happened. So if you're going to critique publicly, I'm telling you right now, like I don't think the relationships really get repaired, but you do need to repair publicly. So the best motto is from military special operators this is where I learned it at least. Praise publicly, critique privately. And so if you can honor that, you end up taking care of like the vulnerability that people, the excess vulnerability, most athletes really, 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 really care. You do not need to point out the mistake. They know.
Yeah.
You instantly know when something didn't go the way you hoped it went.
Yeah.
So the frustration is one of two things. It's either frustration like you're making me look bad and now I'm frustrated, or I'm frustrated that you didn't put in the work. And so you can address both of those in different ways other than an undisciplined way to embarrass another person when, there's a social context taking place.
Going back to you saying that, that's easier said than done because you bills, family members, kids, things of that nature. Aside from, not making anyone look bad and shining so bright that you're embarrassing people and things of that nature, what are other options? Like if you are in the situation where you have a boss that's treating you in that way and you're like, okay, I'm not making him look bad. I'm not doing anything to publicly humiliate him. So how do I navigate through this because I can't leave this position? What do I do?
That's a good question. Like we could kind of make up a couple scenarios. I'll share a tactic that I learned early in sport is that when I ask questions and I'm using the questions to illuminate that it's like they come up with the genius answer, and it's not a question of inspection, but it's to elicit the solution that is most organic for them and it came from them. Now I'm just a great partner. I might have had the same idea. If I'm in the position where the question could create, according to Robert Greene's idea, embarrassment or that somebody looks bad based on the inspection tonality of the question, it's a problem for people. So let me come back to like what I'm suggesting is like figure out how to ask questions to be a great partner so that the person that you're asking the question to feels like they came to the answer themselves. And that's one way. It sounds complicated, but it's actually kind of, I don't know, it's quite nice.
Doesn't feel like acquiescing. Like, let me figure out this clever way I have this idea that you haven't thought of, but let me figure out this clever way to make you think you thought of the idea. Because I feel like it would breed resentment on your end. Like, man, I had to, tee that up to this person because I'm in this situation.
And the other person would be like, oh God, I see what he's doing. Like, please just say the thing. So if you ground yourself in the dark arts, then it could go sideways. But if you're really grounding yourself in being a learner and valuing the genius or the knowledge base that's inside of another person and trying to bring that forward, that's really cool. I think that works.
Yeah, I guess I'm posing the question the way I'm posing it because if I'm being honest, that's my word of the day. A bit of ego is connected to it because it's like, why do I have to acquiesce to you? But I understand your point about not making your, your boss, you look bad. But that is in my head. Like, why do I have to acquiesce to you? Why do I have to tee it up to you?
Well, in some folks you don't. Some
Yeah.
folks it's like, you know, you're going to take a job or work with somebody. You want to understand how they lead.
Yeah.
You know, and like I want to be around people that are really direct and are like, hey, I don't know if you thought about this, but like I think we're missing it here. Or like say it and be clear. But the questioning of like, hey, have you thought about this, or have you explored this, or has this gone a certain way that like I've missed before, like, and not doing it in an inspection way, but really a curious way.
Yeah,
it's cool. I think it's the best coaches in the world ask more questions than give direction.
Gotcha.
Hi, Dr. Mike and O'Neil.
Yes.
First off, I am a pool player. And about 6 years ago, I was in a position where I was playing exclusively with a semi-pro player who was a lot better than I was. And after about a year of this, my confidence started fading. I got to the point where I just didn't trust my abilities anymore. And I started trying not to miss shots instead of letting things happen and just shooting with confidence. And because of this, I developed a horrible hitch in my stroke. And the anxiety that I developed because of this was horrible. Now it doesn't matter who I am playing against. At some point, this lack of trust in my abilities shows up and sabotages my ability to stay focused and be the player that I know that I can be. Because when I am practicing, completely focused and playing in the moment, it is a beautiful thing to see. I would love to hear you and O'Neil cover these topics of self-trust, belief in yourself, and keeping your mind calm when competing. Thank you.
Man, you know, that takes me back to when I was in high school. And my basketball coach was a imposing, just intimidating man. And, you know, he used to be like, if you shoot and you miss, I'm snatching your ass out the game. And
says every great coach. Oh my God. Come on.
I developed this, and I was a great shooter. I could shoot. And I became a terrible shooter because every time I missed, I would hear the and I would look and I would get snatched out the game. And it physically affected my shot. And I'm telling you, this is crazy because I never got over it. I'm a grown-ass man. I never got over it. And I've often wondered, and I'm not bullshitting you when I say this, every blue moon it pops up in my head, like, how could I have fixed that? How could I have overcome that? And I could be driving to the store. I could be in my bed laying down. Every blue moon, I revisit that moment in my life. And I'm like, I could shoot. So why couldn't I shoot when he was threatening me? And then I would practice shooting more and get up more shots. 'Cause I'm like, okay, in my mind, repetition would fix that. The repetition would fix that, and it only got worse. And I'm saying all this to say, I don't fucking know because I still am dealing with that, and I don't even play basketball anymore. How do you?
Oh, the two of you. Yeah. How do we do this? All right. I'll tell you how I heard the question. First is like, did you hear his voice? Like he was, I don't know, felt like he was going to, you know, start crying during the question. Like there's a lot of emotion for him. So, you know, empathetically, I feel for him, meaning that there's a lot of distress coming from this thing that he's wrestling with. Same for you, probably, if it's been years. The piece that I hear that sings above the rest is that, hi, I am a pool player. And he didn't say, hi, I am a 36-year-old or 56-year-old father of, or, you know, he didn't go another role or just kind of do some other description of him. He described himself as a pool player, as opposed to, hi, my name is, and I play pool on a regular basis, and it's something I love doing. So he is identified, or his identity is wrapped in intricately into what he does. So this is the classic performance-based identity. I am what I do, and I am how well I do what I do relative to you. Yeah. And then, so that's kind of the first corruption of the foundation. And so I would start there. Like, okay, well, let's talk more about who you are. Well, what do you mean? Well, you said you're a pool player. Is that it? No, how often do you do that? Well, I think about it a lot, but I play pool 3 hours a day. Right. Let's go bigger. Right. Nobody is defined by just one thing, really. Even the best in the world at something can't be defined by that one thing.
Yeah.
And that's a philosophical position I have. I don't have research articles to suggest that. Only thousands of years of philosophy that have kind of pointed to that same thing. So I would start there. And the second thing I would say, okay, so what's happening is that that one of the triggers was you had somebody that, for you in your case, that said something that gave an ultimatum, that created pressure for you, and you didn't have the psychological model to manage that pressure. So you did what most of us would do is, well, I need to get better at the skill. That's true. So going to work and having deliberate practice around a skill and amplifying the conditions to make them more difficult to execute the skill in practice is a great tactic, but it's necessary but not sufficient. It's not enough. The other variable that needs to get into place is like, what's my thinking strategy around this other person that is next to me? In your case, a coach, in his case, his partner. How do I want to think about either the weird sentences this person says or the support, the challenge or the support this person gives me? And then you have to make a fundamental decision like, is my mind going to be dictated by another person's presence? And most people come to the final resting place was like, it is affected by other people, but I don't want it to be. So you have to make a decision here. Are you going to allow another person to influence your internal state? And if most people say, no, that's not how I want to do it. I don't want to be whipped around by the approval or the rejection or whatever from the other person. I need to do it my way. And my way is to be honest to my ability to think clearly, to execute, to my highest ability, to be focused on the moment and not have all of these other things pull my attention for this greater cause of being accepted or rejected. There's just a decision first that has to be made. What am I going to do about this type of dilemma? If you and I, if we were cousins, and like you leaned over, you're like, hey man, this coach is driving me crazy. And I'd say, and I had some wisdom as a 16-year-old, I'd say, well, what are you going to do about it? You say, well, I'm going to go to the gym. I say, yeah, that sounds good. I say, but like, why are you letting him get in your head? And you go, I don't know, because if I make a mistake, I want to play. If I make a mistake, I'm going to get yanked off. Yeah. What kind of mindset do you want to have? And you say, I got to block him out, man. And I say, well, what do you focus on? You say, I just got to focus on like seeing the back of the room and snapping my wrist. I got to focus on trusting my stuff. Oh, okay. Well, how are you gonna do that? Okay, now we're pointing to all psychology. What John is pointing to is trust of self. Okay, so how do you earn trust of self? You need time under tension. You need to get to the edge of your capabilities, and you need to back yourself. So the time under tension is like put yourself under stressful conditions, and or think about all the times you've been under stressful conditions. You and I have both had time under tension. John has had time under tension, real pressure in our lives that we've managed. And be very clear about how you back yourself. You have backed yourself in those moments and how you will back yourself up in moments of pressure. And so there's a narrative going into the game. You go back to when you were 15 or 16. Like, look, stay true. Look, snap my wrist, own my shot, like do my thing. And if I get pulled, okay, that's the consequence. But I know that I'm likely not going to get pulled if I'm really dialed in and focused. I know I'm going to get pulled if I'm thinking about what he's thinking about me because I'm not focusing on the back of the room. I'm not focusing on feeling that smooth way that I shoot the shot. Again, how you go into the situation, backing yourself in the situation is really about building trust. And so trust just comes essentially from what you say to yourself, but it has to be real. It has to be forged in some sort of pressure-packed fire.
Do you think performance-based anxiety and us wrapping up our definition of who we are in what we do would exist if the world didn't hold high performance in such high regard? Meaning you could be in a game and shoot 1,000 bricks and people are like, that was great. You missed it all, but it doesn't matter. You're playing the game. You're playing pool, you scratch, you mess up, but it was great. I love the way you played. If the world, now obviously this will never be, but if we lived in a world where we just enjoyed watching you perform, not at a high level, just perform. Yeah, you came in last place, but man, you were running. Do you think there is some blame to be laid on? I mean, the majority of it on us as individuals, but do you think there's some blame to be laid on the earth and the world itself because high performance people are rewarded with all sorts of things from accolades to money, and so low performance people are like, well, and then now we have people saying, hey, I don't give my kids participation awards because our mentality is if you participate on a high level, it pushes your boundaries as a human being. Now you are a better human being because you can squat 500. You got a 40-inch vertical leap. You average 25 points a game. You're hitting home runs. Now you are a better human being because from what I see, that's how the world treats high performers, right? And then those high performers, some of them, not all of them, I don't want to generalize, act as if they are better human beings. And it's so on and so forth and so on. So how can someone that is, if I'm an alien and I visit this planet and I'm like, oh shit, in order to be good, in order to be accepted by these people on a high level, I have to do what they do, but better than all of them.
Yeah, you bring up so many good points here. Like, we've got these ancient brains and trying to sort out modernity, modern life. And are we cooperators? Are we competitors? Like kind of what is the origin story of the humans? We are designed for cooperation. There are warring tribes as well.
Yeah.
And so it is both, in my best estimate. Our ancestors figured out that like, when we have to go to war, who are really the cool people? The ones that like we take care of? The ones that saved our children. So those are the high performers, right? The warriors were the high performers. The ones that kind of blew it and like our children are now taken by the warring tribe and our wives or whatever. Like that's not the path for survival.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a reason we take care of the extraordinary performers, call them warriors at one time, now performers. It's part of safety. And so we're holding on when we see these very successful performers do something well. Part of our brain is holding on to that narrative. Like these are the ones that take care of the tribe. But we don't really have tribes like that anymore. So it's complicated. Yeah. We live in an outcome performance obsessed world. Our culture, certainly in the West, is obsessed with it. So we raise our young to have a performance identity. You are what you do, how well you do it is really important in this world. And so that is the broth for a pretty salty soup when it comes to health. We're over salted in that. So how would we do it differently? Well, we probably need different DNA, or we have a radical shift in a concentrated effort to change a subculture. I mean, that's really what we're trying to do here. You and me and the Finding Mastery community and the lab here is like, what is a better way? What does a great life look like in 2024? Like, what is a great life? Is it to hustle hard, to grind, to get after it, to win everything? I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of that. But is there a better way? Can we live aligned to a purpose and have our performance be a contributor to purpose? Because when we perform really well and we do really extraordinary things, it amplifies resources and options to like accelerate something that is bigger than any of us. And the purpose of the tribe at one point was really important. What is our purpose now? Is it just to perform? It's too small. It always has been to take care of other people, to do something generative. And so there's a calling right now. Anxiety is at an all-time high, depression's at all-time, suicidality, addiction, sleeping disorders, like all-time high in our, 100 years that we've been around. You're not 100, like our 30 to 50 years that we've been around. It's really high right now. It doesn't mean it wasn't that way 200 years ago. Yeah. We didn't have, or 600 years ago, we didn't have the data to compare, I think, or at least I'm not aware of it, to now. So we've got some stuff happening right now. We are rudderless when it comes to purpose.
Yeah.
So what's the anecdote? Think about your purpose. What is it? What is it why are you here? To make money and to look good? Probably not going to really solve, you already, you're already doing fine. You look good. Like compliments. Those are
You
compliments.
just compliment me?
Yeah, just
Oh, you
compliment
look good too.
Yeah, thank you.
Man, thank you.
So we're doing okay.
Look at that. Two men, we're
Right.
complimenting each other.
So but to anchor down to like what's a big purpose is I think the answer that I hear for John, to drop down to that and then put yourself under pressure situations so that you know how to speak to yourself in those situations. And that's what you carry forward to build trust, to really back yourself, to know how you need to speak to yourself when there's stress or pressure in the system. And I'd anchor on those two.
There you go, John. Don't be like me and carry this thing 10 years later, because I'm 28, because I just was in high school 10 years ago.
Good man.
Dr. Mike, this was great. I can't believe the year's almost done too. This is listen, man, I know you probably might say no, but let's just do this every day, bro. Let's live together.
Let's just hang out. Look, I love doing this with you. I love the authenticity and the way that you bring yourself forward. This is really cool to hear, our people's questions, to hear kind of the struggle that's in it. Like, I really appreciated that. And at the same time, like, we're all trying to figure something out.
Yeah, we're all in this together. So
yeah. And I love the holidays. Some people want to say, oh, it's so stressful. I love this time.
Yeah.
I love the holidays for this one reason, is that we're trying to figure out how to be connected a little bit better.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do it with gifts. Sometimes we do it over a meal. I just love what this phase of our calendar represents.
Yeah, it's amazing. Can I make a suggestion before we, why don't we form a Finding Mastery caroling team, and we just, let's just,
I thought we were going to have a dinner, like a little banquet kind of true kind of turkey Thanksgiving thing. And you took it to caroling.
Yeah. Bring it back old school.
Old school.
Like,
are you leading?
No, let's not do that.
Well,
let's not do that.
Listen, I'll tell you a funny story. We'll wrap up. Maybe we do this. Maybe in LA, we get together and we go caroling. I say this with knowing that the chances of this actually happening are pretty low. It was in like fourth grade. I came home and I said to my mom, I said, "You want to hear something funny?" She goes, "Yeah." I tried out for the singing choir. And she looked at me and I said, "You want to hear something funnier?" And she said, "What?" And I said, "I got in." Like, I'm telling you, I can't sing for anything. They must have heard me and felt really bad. And like, I cannot sing, but I would love to go carol with you and watch you kind of do your thing. And I can be the one off pitch a little bit.
Okay, so folks, you heard it. We're forming a caroling team, just a short, probably for a week, and we might pop up at your door, so don't turn us away.
Yeah. Again, the chances of this happening are pretty low.
Slim and none.
I appreciate you, O'Neil. Thank you.
Appreciate you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on.